Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Real Talk. Happy Saturday. Happy Sunday. All right, let's begin with a phrase that's been circulating inside China in the past couple of days. Beijing 黄了, or Beijing turned yellow. These words are loaded with meanings. You know, color yellow carries layered meanings in Chinese culture. First of all, the color was imperial color, reserved for emperors and his families only, symbolizing imperial power and authority. Now, in modern usage, yellow takes on several different meanings, and they're not very positive, they're not positive ones. As an adjective, yellow is slang for pornography or moral decadence. When used as a verb, it doesn't mean uh, it I mean, you could say it's something turned yellow, but it really means something is finished, ruined, or doomed. So when people say Beijing has turned yellow, they're not talking about color. They're really saying Beijing is done for. So where did this phrase come from? Well, ahead of the Lunar New Year, which is next week, or a week from the 16th. So we're what? Yeah, 9 days away. So people in several regions, including Beijing and some other cities, they noticed something strange. Local governments were handing up these things. Let me just show it to you. Yellow lanterns. That's a huge cultural red flag because in Chinese tradition, yellow lanterns mean funeral, death, and mourning. So let's see, this is in Beijing. These are more photos showing yellow lanterns to be hung across different cities. Now, traditionally, red lanterns mean celebration, good fortune, and festivity. Yellow lanterns, like I said, are associated with funerals and death. So people have always seen red lanterns during the Lunar New Year. So why suddenly the authorities are putting up yellow lanterns? So people are shocked. And that's when the phrase spread, Beijing turned yellow, or 北京黄了. Nobody knows why the officials want to put up yellow lanterns, but it has dark humor and it's superstitious. It's also it expresses a political anxiety, right? And here's the key point. For people to even joke this way right before the biggest holiday of the year, with everything happening in Beijing right now, it just tells you how deeply uneasy the political mood has become when people say Beijing is doomed. So now here's where this connects to our main topic tonight. It's been 2 weeks since Zhang Youxia was taken down on January 20th. And let's be honest, no one outside Zhongnanhai can say with certainty what really happened or how much real power Xi Jinping has right now. The expert community is sharply divided. Let's leave these two on the screen. Most Western professional analysts, national security experts, mainstream China watchers argue that Xi's power remains unchallenged. In their view, the fact that she dared to move against two of the most powerful PLA generals proves he's confident and firmly in control. They interpret this as a dispute over Taiwan strategy and military management. But many Chinese analysts in the diaspora community, people like me, see it very differently. We argue Xi's power has been weakened or has been weakening over the past year and a half, and that Zhang Youxia, backed by party elders, had hollowed out Xi's control over the PLA. And from this angle, Xi's move on January 20th wasn't strength. It was a high-risk gamble, a reverse coup against Zhang Youxia and his ally Liu Zhengli. So you see, these two interpretations directly clash. And I was on a program last night with a highly respected Western expert, and we had a serious, it was his event. I was just brought on uh, as someone to join the discussion, but I thought that we had a serious exchange, and I don't believe either of us convinced the other. So here's the real question. Why do Western experts and the Chinese diaspora read Beijing so differently? And why do Western analysts overwhelmingly conclude Xi is still firmly in control? And how do I even begin to get them to look at this from another angle? I have been thinking about that since last night. So this is what I want to talk about tonight. This may not be a popular program. It may even upset some very smart people. But I want to start this conversation because misleading information or misreading the CCP isn't just an academic problem. It shapes real-world policy and real-world risk. So the uncomfortable topic tonight is, from Lei, is why do Western experts so often read the CCP wrong? All right, let me begin with my main reason, cultural difference. What a cliche that is, but let me explain. I really think tonight's program is one of the most important programs that I've ever done. Let's look at these two classical paintings side by side. Do I have paintings? I do. Okay. One Chinese landscape painting and one Western landscape painting. Western classical art is obsessed with realism, right? Perspective, scale, detail, everything aims to reproduce what the eye sees. The core value is accuracy. Chinese landscape painting is the opposite. The mountains are too close to the person, are too big, and oftentimes rivers are out of proportion. So the perspective is wrong. But that's intentional. Chinese painting isn't about realism. It's about aesthetic mood or realm that it creates. The most important concept in Chinese painting is called liu bai, blank space. What is not painted often carries more meaning than what is painted. The blank space that you see in the Chinese landscape painting is really what the artist is intended for. Without blank space, Chinese art loses its meaning for existence. That's a deep cultural difference. And even in modern versions of Chinese versus Western painting or artwork, it's the same concept. So in Chinese culture, what's unspoken often outweighs what's spoken. There's a line from the Book of Changes, or Yi Jing, the Yi Jing. It says the invisible and intangible is the Tao, while the visible and tangible is only the container. That one sentence captures the heart of Chinese thinking. Let me give you another example. Science. Western empirical science focuses on observable facts. You see symptoms, you measure data, you analyze evidence. That's also the foundation of Western medicine. Treat what you can see. Chinese medicine is built on the theory of yin, yang, and the five elements. It studies meridians and acupoints, things you cannot see with the naked eye. From the Chinese perspective, if you only chase what's visible, you are just scratching the surface. You're missing the root and the real causes of the phenomena. So now bring this back to Chinese politics. If you judge CCP politics using only hard evidence, official statements, announcements, visible actions, data, news reports, you're very likely missing the real story. In this system, what is not said often matters more than what is said. This is where Western experts tend to get it wrong. So, in the case of Xi Jinping moving against Zhang Youxia, what matters most is not what the CCP has said. It is what the CCP has not said. The silence, the omissions, the things that should have happened but didn't, those matter. So 2 weeks later, what's missing? Well, let me give you a whole list of what's missing. First, no theater command or military branch has publicly voiced support for the party's centrist decision to remove the generals. Second, no major government agency or party organ has come out to endorse the move. Third, no senior officials or local ones have made loyalty statements to the decision. Fourth, the two generals' profiles are still on official government websites. Fifth, aside from the PLA Daily, the propaganda machine hasn't launched a full-scale denunciation campaign, which is the standard practice when the CCP brings down someone. Sixth, and this is huge, the Politburo has said nothing. Seventh, the National People's Congress has not revoked the two generals' delegate status. All of this should have happened, but did not. And that silence is awkward. It's loud, but telling. So what has Beijing actually done? So far, only the Defense Ministry announced an investigation. The PLA Daily ran several editorials attacking the two generals, but even those articles are strange, as they were filled with coded language and word mines. Phrases like rebirth through molting, hinting at replacing Xi Jinping in order for the system to be reborn. Now, compare what's visible to what's missing. Xi Jinping's camp clearly controls the Defense Ministry spokesman. It clearly controls the PLA Daily editors. But at this moment, they do not appear to control the Politburo. They do not appear to control the National People's Congress. And they do not appear to have unified control over the PLA. And that's the crux of the matter. So here's rule number one. If you want to understand CCP politics, don't just study what's said. Study what's missing. Study silence. Study omission. Study what gets deleted and what doesn't. And study what should happen, but somehow never does. And that's where the real story lies. And because Western scholars tend to focus on what's visible and tangible, they often miss one of the most important power centers in CCP politics, the party elders. Western experts focus on Jinping and his power circles, but collectively underestimate how much power the party elders still hold. And the main reason is simple. Party elders are largely invisible. Oh, I got freeze again. Let's see. Can I bring myself back? Let's see. Oh, I could move, but all right. I don't know. You can hear me, right? Okay. All right. Let me see if I can try this. Stay on the page. All right. Unfortunately, they got stuck, but I can keep talking. All right. Let me keep talking. All right. You know what I look like. So, okay. So the party elders are largely invisible, right? This is the main reason why Western experts do not put a lot of emphasis on them. The party elders don't give speeches. They don't hold press conferences. They don't sit in the spotlight. But invisibility does not mean inaction, and it definitely does not mean lack of power. Now, historically, party elders have played decisive roles in CCP politics. Take Mao Zedong, for example. He launched the Cultural Revolution in 1966. He was already functioning as a party elder. After the Great Leap Forward disaster, he gave up the state presidency in 1959 to Liu Shaoqi. And then from 1962 to 65, day-to-day policy was handled by Liu Shaoqi, Deng Xiaoping, and Zhou Enlai. Yet in 1966, Mao bypassed normal party state channels, mobilized young people, the Red Guards, and relied on ad hoc groups headed by his wife, Madame Mao, to launch the Cultural Revolution. That is classic elder politics. An elder using prestige and revolutionary authority to override institutions. Now look at Deng Xiaoping. For much of the 1980s and early 1990s, Deng ruled China without holding the top formal titles. He was not general secretary, he was not president, he was not the premier, yet he held the final say on China's direction. Major political decisions, leadership changes, and crisis responses all required his approval. And even after Deng Xiaoping relinquished all titles and stepped down as chairman of the Central Military Commission in 1989, he still made the decisive call that shaped the regime's response to the 1989 pro-democracy movement, which was a crisis moment for the CCP. And when his chosen successor, Jiang Zemin, moved to the left, Deng stopped Jiang in 1992. And restarted the opening and reform policy. So you see, none of this required Deng Xiaoping to occupy the top chair. He governed from behind the scene as a party elder. And this model continued during Hu Jintao's era. Jiang Zemin, as a retired top leader, continued to exert a decisive influence from behind the curtain for years. Effectively making Hu Jintao a leader in name more than in substance. Hu Jintao was called the child emperor. You see, Deng Xiaoping was the one who normalized this model of elder politics. He wasn't acting alone. He coordinated with other surviving Revolutionary Party elders who collectively functioned as the final arbiters of power. And so this informal structure, which is a hidden layer of authority above the formal system, is still very alive today. So you see, Xi Jinping, when he first came to power, he was fully aware of this powerful party elders network, right? So he imposed tighter controls over their security details, their movements, travel. But that doesn't mean the party elders stopped pulling strings. They became more visible, but their presence is still felt. Let me see if I could do something to okay, still not good. I'm still stuck on it. Okay, anyways, that's okay. All right. Okay, so back to the party elders. So Xi Jinping is trying to curb the influence of party elders, but he hasn't been entirely successful. When his terrible policies traumatized the entire country, the opposition forces gravitate toward the party elders. The creation of the new coordination and decision-making mechanisms within the party at the end of June last year actually formalized the role of party elders in an effort to counterbalance Xi Jinping. So their behind-the-scene bargaining among top power brokers is invisible. So this hidden layer of politics remains seriously understudied by Western experts. And this matters for how we read the current crisis. There's no scenario in which Zhang Youxia would openly pose a threat to Xi Jinping without backing from the party elders. Without elders' support, Zhang Youxia would never dare challenge Xi. So the struggle between Zhang Youxia and Xi Jinping is not a two-man duel. It involves multiple stakeholders inside the party's uppermost power structure. So if you ignore the party elders, you miss half the chessboard. Some people call CCP's party elders China's deep state. They remain invisible, yet they broker deals, veto leaders, and shape succession. So if you only watch who's on stage, you miss who's pulling the strings in the dark. Now, there's another group that's closely tied to the party elders, and that group is also very powerful. That is the princeling network, who are the descendants of former CCP leaders. Most princelings don't hold formal political office, but they control key sectors of China's economy: state-owned enterprises, finance, energy, real estate, and major conglomerates. They see themselves as the red aristocracy. Not every party elder belongs to this aristocracy. Figures like Hu Jintao, Wen Jiabao, Wang Yang, and Zhu Rongji are technocrats. They're not considered the princelings, but there are other individuals like Zheng Qinghong and Liu Yuan. These are both party elders and the red princelings. So together, the party elders and the red aristocracy form two formidable yet largely intertwined, invisible power centers in CCP politics. Without the backing of these two groups, Xi Jinping would never have risen to the top. By moving against Zhang Youxia, the highest-ranking princeling in uniform, Xi Jinping effectively declared war on both camps. These two invisible forces are now converging against him. You simply cannot understand CCP politics if you leave them out. Now let's talk about who the anti-Xi camp is right now. The backbone of the anti-Xi camp right now is precisely the Red Princeling Network, and they're facing an unprecedented crisis. Xi Jinping's move against Zhang Youxia, which is described by many insiders as an ambush, triggered two seismic consequences. First, Xi Jinping shattered internal party procedures for handling top-tier officials. This alone puts every senior official on edge. If this president stands, she can detain or eliminate anyone at any time without due process, without organizational checks. The old rule associated with Deng Xiaoping, that internal struggles must not turn into open killing, has been broken. The system becomes a slaughterhouse. Everyone is meat on the chopping board, and Xi Jinping alone holds the knife. That's why resistance inside the party and the PLA isn't ideological. It's raw self-protection. And the second seismic consequence is this one is even more explosive. Xi Jinping tore up the unspoken pact with the princelings. Now, Zhang Youxia's identity made this a red line. He wasn't just a top-tier military leader. He was pure blood red aristocracy. His father was a founding general, and within the PLA, princeling officers regarded Zhang Youxia as their natural big brother. That prestige is something He Weidong, the fast-tracked vice chairman to CMC, promoted by Xi Jinping, could never command. In princeling's eyes, He Weidong is just Xi Jinping's house servant. With Zhang Youxia, the respect was real. Now, look at how Xi Jinping acted. No formal procedures, no organizational discipline, a move that looks like private vengeance, using personal forces with whispers of assassination. So the message is unmistakable. All prior understandings with the red aristocracy are now void. And when Xi Jinping launched anti-corruption and centralization back during the days when he first came to power, there was one core unspoken deal that he made with the red aristocracy. That is, the blade would not fall on the red families. No prison for red princelings, no serious cases targeting them. That's why Xi Jinping secured their early support and is able to rule until today. Even after 2017, as Xi became more arbitrary and as the economy deteriorated, the red families complained, they grumbled, but they held back. Their core interests were untouched. The people who paid a dear price were ordinary citizens and lower tier elites, not the aristocracy. Now, with Zhang Youxia gone, that changed everything overnight. The red families realized their get out of death-free card had been revoked. The knife had drawn blood, and now it's resting on their own necks. So shock turned into fury, and that's why Xi Jinping's move against Zhang Youxia is, in essence, a declaration of war on the red aristocracy and on the party's old order. So this outcome is inevitable. Xi Jinping, from the perspective of the red families, Xi Jinping cannot be allowed to remain. This conflict is fundamental and irreconcilable. And Xi has no way back. The anti-Xi camp has no way back either. So there's no longer any possibility of peaceful coexistence. The fight must produce a winner. Winner takes all. Loser gets wiped out. That is what I just described is the political realism inside Beijing's power circles right now, even if it remains entirely invisible to outside observers. So when you see this awkward silence, not unified response from the military, no loud endorsements from the government, no chorus of loyalty from the party, do not assume it's because officials suddenly grew brave to defy Xi Jinping's orders. That's not true. They haven't. What you're seeing is the result of two invisible forces working behind the scenes, the party elders and the red princelings. These are not people who speak in public. They shape outcomes quietly. Yet many Western analysts leave these two powerful centers out of their models entirely. Having explained all of that, I want to bring up one point, and this is, I think, is equally important. In my opinion, there's another reason why Western experts tend to insist Xi Jinping is still in full control. And this one has more to do with professional incentives than ignorance. I don't think most of these experts fail to understand the dynamics I just laid out. In fact, I think they do. But acknowledging that Xi's power is fractured complicates policy frameworks in the West. If Xi Jinping is no longer firmly in control, in their mind, it becomes harder to present a clean, coherent China strategy. It blurs threat assessments and it muddies accountability. So the safer analytical choice for them is to treat Xi Jinping as fully in charge and to dismiss any signs of internal fracture as smokescreens or regime disinformation. After all, it's much easier to justify policy when there is a single, all-powerful villain at the top. But This is where the logic breaks down, in my opinion. Let me explain it this way. Whether Xi Jinping is in full control and whether he's dangerous are two separate questions. One does not depend on the other. In fact, the assumption that Xi Jinping is less threatening if he is losing control is backwards. A wounded, cornered, and desperate strongman or dictator is often more dangerous than a confident one. Power fragmentation inside the CCP doesn't reduce risk, it increases it. And history shows us that wars don't always start with carefully planned grand strategies followed by perfect execution. They never work like that. They often begin with miscalculations, accidents, and uncontrolled escalations inside chaotic power systems. So when the center is unstable, the risk of reckless moves goes up and the chances of war increases. So Western analysts need to separate these two questions and examine them independently. Is Xi Jinping in full control? And regardless of that answer, is the CCP becoming more dangerous to the outside world? Conflating the two leads to bad analysis and potentially very costly mistakes. All right, I think I've explained why Western analysts and Chinese experts hold such different opinions on CCP politics. Let me wrap up by saying this. China is not a total black box, but it's not a clear glass box either. If you only look at what Beijing shows you, press releases, official statements, staged images, you will draw the wrong conclusions. The real story lives in what's missing, in silence, in who doesn't speak, in who suddenly disappears, in who should have endorsed but didn't. Whether Xi Jinping is in full control or losing his grip is one question. Whether the CCP system is becoming more volatile and more dangerous to the world is a separate question. Behind both are enormous, invisible forces from inside the CCP system shaping outcomes. And actually right now, a wounded dictator is more lethal inside a fragmented power center. So we need to have a clear assessment of how wounded he is and how fragmented the system is before we could understand how much threat or risk they impose. So if we really want to understand what's happening in Beijing, we need to look at what's missing, right? Learn to listen to silence and pay attention to the smallest details and pick up random coded expressions on the street, like Beijing turned yellow. Well, that's what I have for you. If this changed how you read China, that's the point. That's my point. Of course, this is only the beginning, and let's keep this dialogue going. I actually have a treat for you. I have a music treat. Let me play that, even though I got stuck on the screen, but I think you could appreciate this music put together by a loyal fan. She's a Chinese, and she wrote, let me first play, it's only 2 minutes. It was actually composed based on a famous Chinese poem called On the Tower at Youzhou. In Chinese, it's Deng Youzhou Tai Ge. It's a very, very famous poem from the 7th century. It's the most iconic poem with a reference to politics. And the author was a pioneering poet and statesman who wrote this work amidst political frustration and personal exile. And the melody, the music came from the revered composition inspired by Kazakh poet. His name, I hope I'm saying it, Abai Kunambai Uli. Kunambai Uli. From the 19th century poet. So let me play it. It's only 2 minutes long.
The great men of the past, where are those of future years? The sky and earth forever last. Here and now I alone shed tears. The sky
It's beautiful, isn't it? Well, she wrote a nice message. Let me come back, even though I'm stuck. But okay, so this is what she wrote. She wrote a really beautiful message. She said, "At the heart of every great poem, every haunting melody, and every act of honest inquiry lies a shared human impulse, the search for truth. This is in line with this channel, Lays Real Talk, this channel's simple belief, wisdom to know, the wisdom to know and the courage to tell." And she said, though separated by centuries and civilizations, we echo the same longing to understand our place in the universe, to confront solitude with courage, and to seek what is real beneath the surface of appearances. When we pursue it with sincerity, whether through art, music, history, or dialogue, we discover unexpected harmonies across cultures and time. The resonance between a Tang Dynasty lament and a Central Asian folk melody is not coincidence. It is proof that human experience at its deepest level is profoundly interconnected. How beautiful! Well, thank you very much for the beautiful production. Chris edited the music. I mean the music video, but the music, the song was sang by AI, and I love it. I love it. Okay, let's see what people say. All right. Wow, you can't see me. I'm so stuck. What has happened here? Oh my goodness. Lei, okay, here's Teacher Z in TW in Taiwan. Lei, what do you think would happen if Taiwan one-sided the civil war by ending the Republic of China, funds a new nation like the Republic of Formosa? Why do you want to end the Republic of China? I think the mainland Chinese are waiting for the Taiwanese government to return. Did you guys realize that responsibility? I think Republic of China shall do very well. Will do very well in the mainland. Why give up? Okay. All right. Wow. Someone said Lei needs to put out an album. Yes, we're working on that. All right. Louis Raymond. Well, thank you, Louis. If it is yellow, let it be the light of full broad daylight, not the mark of a coward, but of Christ, seeking to bring freedom and enlightenment as faithful and true. All right. Okay, seek the truth. Okay, here's a question. A couple of shows ago, you said shifting to democracy after the CCP collapse isn't the right way. Can you do a show about what is and what parties should usher in the new era, ROC? Okay, well, thank you for the question. I certainly will work on that. Someone said, have you tried to close and restart your camera? I think it's the internet, it's not the camera. Hold on, let me redo this. Let me redo this. Stay on page. It's just so stuck. I have no idea. All right, we'll have to leave it like that. I don't know how to fix this, but I will certainly question, if the Iranian people get their freedom, will that help ignite a revolution in China? Absolutely. Absolutely. Someone say, Lei, you're beautiful. Yes. I'm stuck in my beauty. I love this live, the coverage, and everyone in chat, so nice, respectful, and intelligent. Subscribe. Well, thank you. All right, the conversation. Okay, Lei, I meant to unplug the camera and USB cord and plug it back in again. All right, let's see what happens. Let me redo this. Oh, I got a super sticker. Someone is trying to encourage me. Good, let me do something. Yeah, let me switch camera. Good idea. Camera, let's see. Oh, I'm back. Can you guys see me? Yes, I just switched camera. How could I not try that earlier? I'm back. Now you see Lei moving. Yes, video is back. I just used my the camera. Hold on, let me try this. Let me see if this will actually. Oh yeah, this is working too. This is actually working too. Not so well, but is it working? It's working. My hand is moving. Well, thank you. You see how Lei is not very good at working with these technology. All right, I'm moving. Well, thank you, whoever gave me a super sticker. And with that, my luck changed. Okay, here's let me be serious. According to recent various sources, the Xi family, including his sister, brother, wife, takes in trillions of dollars through his connections. Does that mean that the Xi family are the richest family in the world? Well, the number, there are all kinds of claims about the family's wealth. First of all, it's not trillions of dollars. Some say it's trillions of yuan. Actually, we did the math. We think the family has amassed wealth in the hundreds of billions of dollars, but not in the trillions yet. But that's just based on the claim itself. The claim is that Venezuela has sold its oil to the Chinese government at a dirt cheap price, right? At a heavily discounted price, and it was sold to Xi Jinping's sister, who then turns around and sells the crude oil to China's oil import conglomerates, and makes a huge amount of money. And people's estimate was, well, $400 million US. But so that alone, that claim alone, is in the hundreds of millions of dollars. But that doesn't mean the family hasn't enriched themselves in other businesses. So the family wealth could be much higher than that. We just don't know what it is. But to say that they benefit themselves from the oil transactions from Venezuela and Iran is in the trillions of dollars is an overstatement by my math. So yeah, but the family definitely has enriched themselves through these deals. Thank you for the super sticker. All right, wow, I'm back. I should have tried that earlier. Okay, I think now the only power Xi has left is literal control of weapons, like at his fingerprints. What are your estimates of his control? Well, he definitely controls the propaganda apparatus. He controls the police. He controls the Central Security Bureau, and he controls some. He has control or influence over some party officials, but not all of them. And he reappeared at an event yesterday or today with the only remaining member of the CMC, Zhang Youxia, who allegedly has resigned or died, but he appeared. Zhang Youxia appeared with Xi Jinping, but the guy, Zhang Youxia looked so nervous and awkward walking behind Xi Jinping. You could actually, you literally see the awkwardness on his face. And it was an event to visit retired PLA generals and treat them to a performance, a Lunar New Year performance. And people also compared those generals in attendance with the ones who showed up in prior year events. And there's an interesting difference. And one of the generals who was considered Xi Jinping loyalist was missing from this year's event. And somebody who was loyal to Jiang Zemin showed up. So there was but it wasn't the case a year ago. So people don't know what has happened behind the scene. Was it because the Xi Jinping loyal general was sick or wasn't around to make that event, whereas the other one was available? We don't know. So, okay. All right. Lei looks younger. Good. All right. Brother Vern, Lei, the problem is if you guess based on what is missing in Chinese politics and get your analysis wrong with your policy adjustment, you will be labeled a fool. So how do you see past that? You will be a fool regardless. You will be a fool. You'll be a fool if your analysis is wrong. And so far, oh, I'm stuck again. No. The West does not have a high score in terms of their assessment of CCP's politics. In most cases, their assessment of, or their public assessment of CCP's political dynamics has not been very accurate. So it's not like they have scored a perfect 10 and now that all of a sudden they all messed up. That's not the case. So no matter what you look at, based on what you can see or based on what's missing, if you get it wrong, you get it wrong, right? So you can't, and you brought up a very good point. They, it's safer for them to stick with what's visible, even though they know the conclusion could be very wrong. They would rather stick with the obvious evidence than to stick with the invisible evidence, because it's more because so that they will have they are less likely to be accused of getting it wrong. But I think that's just because of that, we always fall into CCP's traps, because then CCP will give you the wrong evidence to lead you into the wrong conclusion, because the CCP can control the evidence. They can control the quote unquote facts. And they know from these facts, from these evidence, how the West would derive at their conclusions. So everything, all of that could be manipulated if you thought, So you have to pay attention to what's missing, what's not being said, to serve as a counterbalance. And this is why this is the game. They know that the CCP manipulates its GDP number. It manipulates its economic data. It knows the Western experts will study these wrong data. And yet nobody is courageous enough to say, I'm not going to study these numbers because these are meaningless. They're fabricated by the CCP. I'm going to study what's missing. So it's but I know that whole concept is so uncomforting to Western trained experts. It defies logic. And I know that feeling. But this point needs to be brought up. I'm so glad that I'm saying it tonight, even though my program is all audio, no video. Otherwise, you could see a very animated lay on screen. It needs to be addressed. You cannot just base everything on what your eyes see and what your ears hear. That will lead you to the wrong conclusion. That could be a deadly wrong conclusion. So that's my point. Hopefully my message is loud and clear and people get it. All right. Rose Carius, interesting stuff as always. Could you please answer the question from Seek the Truth regarding Cai Qi? I'm interested in that one. Cai Qi is going to be in big trouble. He doesn't have a future within the system. If Xi Jinping's faction wins, okay, the first person that Xi Jinping will start to distrust is Cai Qi. Cai Qi will become the next Zhang Youxia. Oh, what happened? Cai Qi will become the next Zhang Youxia if Xi Jinping regains the upper hand. Now, if Xi Jinping loses, Cai Qi will become the scapegoat. So either way, he's going to have a miserable ending. Hopefully, I don't know if the guy has figured that one out. So. All right. All right, I'm back. Oh, question. Here's a question forwarded by Nicole. There are reports that Cai Qi hasn't been seen for some time now. You reported that he may have switched loyalties. Do you have any update? No, he's seen today. He went to because it's the Lunar New Year. It's the week before the Lunar New Year, and all these top leaders are busy visiting retired officials. So Cai Qi went out to visit some retired officials with Shi Taifeng, the minister of organization. So he's seen, yeah, he's out. All right, how about we end it here? Okay, all right. I will be back maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know if I will do it tomorrow or not. I've been doing a Sunday program 2 weeks in a row. So if not, next Tuesday. All righty. Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.